Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It is the 11th of Monday. Y'all doing? Well, let's just go straight into the charts. There's not a whole lot interesting news-wise overnight. Well, I mean, there was stuff on Friday, so let's talk about that. On Friday, a top U.S. Senator, Mr. Manchin, said that he doesn't support new stimulus. But then he retraced his comments and said, well, you know, I have to see the package first. So that's why the markets dove like this. And then it was like, just kidding. So they came back up to here to close out the week. Now, since then, in the weekend overnight action, we kind of drifted back down to where we were, which is okay. Treasuries continue their push down, and in fact, we have gotten another pretty aggressive push here, and you can see that the 2 and 10 continues to steepen, although the knob is not so much. Oil continues to look okay at $52 now, but doing the same thing, kind of coming back a little bit. Gold still struggling. It looks like we could get a bounce here in gold, but I don't know. I'm really not sure what caused all this. Maybe some profit taking, maybe... Oh my gosh. Hold on. Something is wrong with Financial Juice. Ooh, my. That's probably on my end. Something's wrong with my audio. Okay. And then copper. Copper struggling a little bit too. Interesting. Just come back here and look at the daily chart here. Oh my gosh. All right. And then lastly, Bitcoin taking a little bit of a haircut. Dropping. You know what? This chart is messed up. I don't know what the deal is with this, but the chart is messed up. It's not a rollover thing, is it? No. What if I just reload all historical data? Well, it suffices me to say that we were at 40,000, and over the weekend we have since taken a little haircut back to 3,500 or so. And because it happens on the weekend, I would be a little bit wary about the movement really meaning anything. Good morning, Air Cages. I mean, when you make a move over the weekend, you're doing it in reduced liquidity, generally speaking. So you do that when you want to manipulate the price. So I would suspect that this pullback, if we will call it, is I would suspect that this pullback is some sort of manipulation, and they may try and push it up again. Man, maybe if I change it to 500, we'll let that load. So it just goes straight from the 24th to the 11th. What the hell? Well, let's try 5-minute charts. All right, sure. Okay, so now you can see the drop over the weekend. Coming back pretty hard. Okay. Manipulation in line with the 10-year? I don't know. Well, the 10-year has moved down. It's not, they both kind of moved independently when they started, but, you know, the 10-year pushing down like this is not really very good for Bitcoin, is it? I don't think that that is really relevant to the dynamic that's been driving Bitcoin up, though, right? I think that really what you're getting in Bitcoin is some people decided to come in and speculate, and they've created a supply squeeze. In other words, the people in charge of Bitcoin were not in charge, but a lot of the larger players in Bitcoin that have a lot of supply weren't expecting it to take a rise quite like this. I mean, it's been very quick. Yeah. Now, I still think that there's a good chance that it's going to take a dive here this weekend. Before this weekend. And not sure if this will be the 85% one, but I think that what you will see happen is there's going to be a couple of smart whales that are going to say, I'm not going to take the chance. I'm going to get out of this before the 15th deadline for Tether and Bitfinex to produce documents. So I think that you'll see a pretty good drop then. And this has happened in the past when we've had events like this. Like they sold before the event happened, and then the event happened, and it was like they extended the deadline again, and so it, just started going back up. So that's where that's at. Anyways, so I'm kind of curious. I'm not so sure what we're going to do with the E-mini here. I feel like that there's the bias is probably up, but that there's probably some reason to be down. And when you look at the overnight action, it's incredibly directionless in the E-mini. So I don't really have a whole lot to go off of there. And the 10-year, I certainly think it's a down, but I mean, they took their move and they're pulling back at the moment. So I think that if we were to go short, that we would have needed to have done it a long time ago. So I'm going to need to wait for something a little more clear for me to be able to make a good trade. Yeah, Bitcoin just being Bitcoin. It could the move that happened over the weekend, I'm sure is just your run of the mill manipulation, right? Wow, Ed Morrissey leaving the Republican Party. Could be a dump to shake out weak retail. Well, it's there. Yeah, you create a dump to create liquidity for yourself, right? I mean, that's what they've done in the past. Like, I do expect a real dump, but I don't think that it'll be like that. I think that it will be like after the Bitfinex fails to produce documents, or it'll be off of some big news story. It could happen during the week, and it'll be like 85%, just like that. And you won't be able to access the exchange. I was a little bit concerned this weekend because I was hearing people having trouble with Coinbase, but apparently that wasn't really like a widespread thing or anything. So, but yeah, it'll be like 85% overnight, and before anybody even realizes what's going on. Maybe it won't be instant like that, but you get what I mean. It'll be fast, and it'll be 85%. It won't be like we wake up 10% and then over the course of a few days. If the kind of news comes out to do this sort of thing, it'll just create absolute chaos. Mm-mm. I'm reading this story from Ed Mercy on Hot Air. And I'm kind of like, well, I know for a long time that you guys haven't really been Republicans, but the reasons that he's making for leaving are kind of fucking stupid, to be honest with you. He's gonna regret doing it. Just kind of be stuck. Okay, well, the E-mini taking a little dip there. Well, they went through a couple of really good liquidity pools there in doing that. Biden picked someone with no experience to run the CIA. Yeah, that one was weird. I don't know what they're doing with that. It's a diplomat guy, right? Career diplomat. Well, weird. Lululemon's new forecast is too low for investors used to big beats. Oh wait, is Lululemon going to take a haircut? Yoga wear maker sees growth at higher end of previous forecasts. Some analysts expected revenue growth in the low 20% range. And they're going to see it in high teens. It's still growth. It's still crazy. Double-digit growth in a retail chain. Come on. It's so funny. You know what? We should pull up our stock market stuff because I would love to watch that. I also think we should keep an eye on, well, we should. I want to keep an eye on Twitter, of course, because Twitter taking a hit with banning Donald Trump, and also Nvidia. I think if Tether gets screwed, people are going to sell it and buy into Bitcoin. Don't you think that's the only way to exit USDT, really? No, I don't think so. Like, here's the thing. Why? If okay. First of all, any exchange that is smart will halt USDT trading right then and there, right? Like, don't you realize the USDT is worthless, okay? But it was used. It's responsible for like 90% of the current Bitcoin price. So, yeah, could people be trying to exit it and go into Bitcoin? Yes. But who is going to go in there and be like, "Oh, yeah, you can have my Bitcoin for USDT." You get what I mean? It's not gonna. These guys are gonna want to try and get out, and they're not going to be able to. And then what will happen is that the people pricing it, the market makers and everything pricing Bitcoin itself, will say, well, it's not worth what it is, right? Because then at that point, who's going to buy it? Because where the money, all the money is gone. So it'll just become like a liquidity vacuum will just pull everything down. Just think what if came out all of a sudden the US currency was worthless. Do you think that the stock market would rise on that news? Like, it doesn't really make much sense, does it? And sure, you could sit down and say, oh, well, people will try and get out of their dollars and into the stock market. But the issue is that at that point, they wouldn't be able to. Right? You would get such chaos that they would close the exchanges. And that's what's going to happen over there, is it's going to be like chaos. Everybody's going to want to try and get out of their USDT, but they won't be able to. The exchanges will shut everything down, and when it opens back up, it'll be worth like nothing. Well, not nothing, but it'll be worth a hell of a lot less than it is worth today. Catch my drift? How's it going, by the way, Uzi? Well, I was thinking about fading here in the ES because of that drop, but I didn't really see anything in the tape that really excited me. It still kind of looks like it's just going to dawdle around here for a while. So I'm not sure what caused that drop, but... So let's move this over here so that we can look at it. And we'll move this over to the side, and we'll make this one be the Twitter, and NVDA. And then down here, for a bit, we'll go Lulu. It is Lululemon, right? Yeah, okay, cool. Lulu is an expensive stock, I did not know. This is that same irritating thing where it's like they can't nobody wants to do the reverse splits, or at least they didn't. Maybe that changed after the whole the way that they moved in oh my gosh, the way that they moved in Tesla when they did the split, and when Apple did the split too. Apple did the split too, didn't they? And I don't know, why does this have... How do we get rid of this? Oh, maybe it's this thing. There we go. Yes. And get rid of the volume. I don't really need the volume. Show volume. Okay. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, so NVIDIA is up in the overnight market, but just by a tad. By about as much as Twitter is down, but Twitter's down, what? Almost 10%? No. Not quite 10%. So 45 would be 10%. You seem to be handling COVID like a champ. I think I might be over it. I still got like a dry cough, like a... You can still hear it, right? And I'm kind of just trying to like really hold it back because I don't think that I actually got anything. Like yesterday I blew my nose in the morning and I got some gunk out, and then nothing else the rest of the day. So I think that I might be experiencing post-viral syndrome, like I did with that virus that I caught last year, because that one I had like this cough and felt sick for weeks. My brother called it the Zoolander cough. Coof, coof. I got the black lung pop. So, yeah. I'm thinking that today I'm gonna start working out a little bit. I won't go into the garage, but I'll do some calisthenics here inside and try and build up to going back in the garage and lifting weights and breathing hard, and hopefully when I do that, that'll kick my system and push it out of it. Because last time they just gave me a steroid, so I figure like high intensity exercise should help it. But I would say that I'm probably okay now. I don't think I'm supposed to stay quarantined until Wednesday. But I'm betting I'm not contagious right now, but we'll wait until Wednesday. Good morning, Ace. How are you? Well, we don't really need to have this up until the E-mini starts trading, so... Are you a fan of nicotine? No. It's, how's the Rona? It's okay. I think I'm over it. I think I'm got, like, what we're saying is I think I got post-viral infection, or, syndrome. So, like, this lingering cough and, like, your system's still kind of overreacting, but the virus basically gone. Saw a study this morning that nicotine does stuff to your gut. Because I've heard that people will smoke to deal with ulcerative colitis. And so obviously there was some sort of gut interaction there. But it sounds now like what it's doing is it just creates a different issue. Wait, you got it? Yeah, I tested positive for coronavirus. You notice how I choose my words carefully, because there's false positives and things like that. But I got pretty sick and I tested positive, and I know how I got it and all that. So. Oh man, they're all tweeting about that. I'm disappointed and disheartened by what happened last week. I find it shameful that surrounding these tragic events there has been salacious gossip, unwarranted personal attacks, and false misleading accusations on me from people who are looking to be relevant and have an agenda. This time is solely about healing our country and its citizens. It should not be used for personal gain, says Melania Trump. Okay. Let's see here. If the House impeaches Trump and he ends up pardoning the MAGA rioters, are those pardons unconstitutional because the pardoned offenses are part of the case of impeachment? Get grief, this whole thing. It really irks me when the political establishment gets focused on a story that doesn't matter and they're wasting all their time talking about this. So now they're going to talk about impeachment for the next few months or whatever. So they're saying that they either invoke the 25th Amendment, or Nancy says that they will file impeachment charges, and that will happen probably tomorrow. And then the Senate won't be able to pick them up until basically Joe Biden comes along. And at that point, then what's the point? Well, I think that they want to impeach him even after he's left office. Apparently, they want to impeach him even after he's left office. Probably so that, well, I mean, there's probably a lot of things, but they seem very vengeful about it. And were you streaming while you were sick? Yeah, I was. So now they're going to have this impeachment thing, going on, overshadowing their whole start of Joe Biden's term. Like, it's really... Communists love that scorched earth stuff. Yeah, I just can't. It just seems like so foolish. And like the thing is that I don't think that they'll be able to do it. Like, here's the thing is that I think some of these people just think anything to get rid of Donald Trump. But I mean, he's not going to be president, so I don't see why that matters. The rest of, there are still people in Congress that think very carefully about what kind of historical precedents they're setting. And as far as I can tell from a legal perspective, and I'm sure that you'll hear plenty about it, none of what Donald Trump did can be considered an impeachable offense. It was all just free speech. So... I'm late to the party, but could you describe your experience with the Rona? Yeah, I had chills. And a little bit of, graveliness in the back of my throat, and that was basically it. They're going to go hardcore on purging Trumpism so they can distract their idiot constituency from all the political promises they're going to ignore. No. I think it's worse than that, Uzi. They're going hardcore. So well, first of all, the big thing that I've been hearing is that they're trying to get all of the people that were involved in the Capitol in like the whole protest. They want to put them on the no-fly list, I believe. So there's that. That's a big deal, I think. I just that one just really rubs me the wrong way. I mean, there are certainly people on the Donald Trump side of things that have been clamoring for like revolution, essentially. I have a hard time knowing. I mean, there's no way to really know how widespread it is because I don't believe that everyone that is posting that stuff is an honest Donald Trump supporter. I think that there are people trying to, incite and make the overall group look bad. Because I'll go in and find some of these people that are saying stuff and they're like new accounts and stuff. But I digress. So there's that. And then they're going to put out a domestic terrorism bill. Now, a domestic terrorism bill is very alarming to me, right? Because they're basically what they're saying is that, there's people out there saying that there should be revolution or, doing stuff, and we can't do anything about it because there's no such thing as actually domestic terrorism. And they need to be able to treat these instances like terrorism so that they can prevent them. So what does that mean? That means that they can basically come in and violate your rights, violate your constitutional rights is basically what it's going to be. It's going to be a backdoor. It's going to be like the Patriot Act too. And they'll be using this whole thing about Republicans and how they're evil and all of this to push it. Only one side gets the call for revolution, gets to set DC on fire, and gets the call for people's deaths. Got another right? I mean, the thing that's the double standard is really quite something else, isn't it? Because They had 5 million signatures last election. The Democrats did, signatures to overturn the election. They questioned the election results incessantly. And now they're coming in and saying that the Republicans doing that is just this awful thing comparable to treason. And I frankly just don't see it. And they say that, protesting at the Capitol in that matter was insurrection. But they did this multiple times, like during the Kavanaugh hearings when they took over the Senate offices. The Democrats did. So, and they've been saying, like revolution kind of stuff too, like the freaking black bloc guys they want to overturn the US government. There was actual real terrorist attacks against federal facilities. Remember that guy gonna bomb the ICE facility, for instance, right? And Republicans we got to do something about them. And the scary thing is that establishment Republicans like Ed Morrissey and Al Pundin and all of these idiots at Hot Air. Sorry to go into like this is probably further than you guys want to talk about, but they're just like full bore on board with it. Like, because the reality is that they don't really have a place in a Trump Republican Party. And amazing how he didn't purge leftism from the internet after one of theirs shot up a congressional baseball game. Oh, man, yeah. Oh, jeez. Totally forgot about that thing. Yeah, it's really... I mean, we can go into the hypocrisy of it, but it's alarming to me that the Democrats are going to go down this path of taking away people's rights. They're going to use it to try and take away people's rights. And there are people on the Republican side that are just, pretending like everything is hunky-dory. Oh, man. But that's okay. It just means that Donald Trump populism will take over the Republican Party and those establishment guys are done. Please list the right they're going to be taken away the right to not be imprisoned without a trial. The right to a fair trial. Did you not hear what I said? They want to apply the Patriot Act provisions to United States citizens, which means that they can arrest you and hold you indefinitely without a trial or making any charges or anything. Okay, when that happens, will you let me know? I will. But I will tell you this right now. The bill has been drafted and is in motion already. So we'll see what happens. But given the political climate, I think it stands a good chance of passing. Let's see here. Twitter taking another little step there. Yeah. When it was BLM, they just let them... Well, think about when... I think that the best example was after Donald Trump was inaugurated. You remember all those black bloc people just riding around D.C. and doing all sorts of damage and stuff? And it was like straight up insurrection. I digress. We got like, I guess we got carried really far away because the whole point, the thing that started me on that was that the politicos are all hung up on impeaching Donald Trump now instead of talking about things that actually matter at the moment. Like Joe Manchin suggested that he's not going to vote for a $2,000 stimulus checks for everybody. That's a big deal. That could, start a little bear market over here, right? I agree. Some folks did some bad stuff. Yeah, but do you not realize the narrative that they're trying to set up so that they can do other bad stuff, right? How am I supposed to buy Bitcoin without stimulus checks? Oh man. I see that the E-mini turned down there a little bit again. Who is they? No, sorry, what are we talking? We're talking they about the Democrats, right? Oh, you took a trade on that? What the fuck? Okay, something is going on here. Oh, you know what? I had my financial juices. I never fixed that. Let's see. Yeah, it's fine. I don't want to take a trade right now. Okay, so there's definitely something wrong with my audio. I'm going to try closing my browser and opening it back up. He's too busy. No, I really wouldn't have taken it either way.
Uzi Knesset says Ace always kills it, lol.
That's fine. So why is it just... It must be... It must have something... No, because it's going through the virtual audio cable. Something's going on, though. That was weird activity in the Treasury. When are you going to send me your indicator? Which one are we talking about? The Bitcoin one? No, that's right. This one is on a different... I need to fix this. Do that, you should be able to hear it. Okay, so it is an issue with that virtual input is screwed up. Oh, that's right. What if I just send it to the Focusrite? Sure. Now we should be able to get financial juice. Garlic dip coin is down 38% today. Okay. So a central bank person in the UK is talking right now, and that is why the treasury was moving the way that it was. They're talking about negative interest rates, and Bank of England's 10 Rayo, possible that more stimulus is needed to do so at an appropriate pace. Feasibility of negative rates still in progress. I have nothing new to add to this. The last guy I gave my indicator to turned it into a 3-ring circus of Autobots. Yes, it did. Oh, which, by the way, I haven't been running that one. I mean, I haven't run that one for a long time because there's issues with it. Like, I'll use it as a trigger, but only if I otherwise think it's going that way anyways. At the moment in the E-mini, we've been selling, and I'm not sure if the selling is justified or not, or if it would have been appropriate to take. Well, it looks like 2 of my robots would have gone short, so... But the Bitcoin indicator, that's staying a secret. That's staying a secret until I either get $1 million for it or I get fame and fortune or something. If there's like some academic out there that wants to do a study with me on it, then that'd be a different thing. If we end up crashing this month, though, then it sure is, that would be like the 4th feather in its cap, wouldn't it? So Ace was the secret sauce? No. Aces is something totally different. Aces is just a crossover with a specific set of conditions attached to it. So the thing that's irritating about it is that there's one part of his setup that is a little bit ill-defined. Well, I was able to find a quantitative way of expressing it, but he just looks at it. And so I was able to backtest it with my quantitative way and find a situation where it makes money, but he takes it much more often than it takes it. What time frame? 1 and 5 minute bars. So that's why I haven't like actively run the robot, because if you backtest it on a large enough set of data, it actually does come out negative. So there's more, there's something to it that Ace does that we don't have programmed. that allows him to take it more often than the robot, but still keep a good win rate. Plus he lets them ride, and I don't. The robot doesn't let them ride. Yo, you have 610 and 377 tick charts now too? That's something different. I'm in negotiations with the trader. Can't say who, but he has red hair. Wait, who has red hair? What are we joking about? So this is where I say that there's like post-viral syndrome. It's like I will get gunk and it seems like really thick stuff in the back of my throat, but then you cough up, there's nothing in it. And it seems nothing. Here's the House impeachment resolution, which charges Trump with one article of incitement of insurrection. You can't prove that. I really think that it's silly. Victor says, I'm pretty new to trading. What do you think about the techniques of John Grady? Okay, so Victor, this is a good question. I initially learned to trade futures from John Grady. I didn't take his big webinar or anything, but I read the book, and I think that the book is a really good read because it gives you an idea of how it's played. It allows you to look at the DOM and realize what large institutions are actually doing with it and why you would watch the DOM. And in the book, he talks about a number of setups. I think he has like 6 setups that you can use. I have found that if you trade his setups verbatim, that you will lose money because you need context. There are situations where that he talks about, and I mean, he points it out. Excuse me. He points it out in the book. He's like, okay, here's this one setup, but sometimes the setup turns out differently because of this reason. And you kind of have to know which one it is. And that's true, but I have found that the situations when we know what that is and what it isn't are few and far between. So I think the reality is that what he's teaching you is good information, but that the edge has probably been arbitraged out of it already. So that doesn't mean don't buy it and take it. I think that you should. I think that you just have to realize that after you've read it, you need to go in and watch the order book and find your own setups, essentially. Try and find something in there that people haven't noticed. Because since he's been doing this, the robots have basically taken over the market making and changed the game. Makes sense? So that's what I would say about John. But I like him a lot. Probably a few people that I respect more than John Grady. Like I said, that's where I first started to learn. I've found that it's more sophisticated than that. I wouldn't say it's not worth it. I mean, for a $70 book, and I'll tell you a couple of the other things that he does in his course is he gives you all of the reasons why you should trade what you trade and what you need to have set up and everything for the computer and stuff. There's a lot of stuff at the beginning there that is just like what you need to actually get up and running with trading futures that I think is really valuable. And there's a lot of information just about setups that you're just not going to find anywhere else and that I think you want to be aware of. So just, you got to go further. It's totally, he's joking. You don't listen to Air Cages. He's just trolling you. It's totally allowed to talk about John Grady. Yes. Never take anything that Air Cages says seriously. Oh yeah, where is Eagle Guy? Forgot about that. Is AOC demanding universal basic income? He wants to Skype. Did you give him your Skype? Do you have the Skype open? Cash and markets were hoping that Biden would prevail and get the rest of his party ready to concentrate on his massive stimulus program in the days following inauguration. I think the hint of inauguration confrontation is mildly disappointing to the markets. Art Cashin. Okay, there's a good point. Rule 2, there's no outside food. What? You know, I've been watching Cobra Kai. It was a good show. And I didn't realize that the whole Fight Club rules thing kind of came from Karate Kid. Because in Karate Kid, first rule of karate is only for self-defense. And the second rule is first learn the first rule. And it's even kind of, I think, a similar thing to Fight Club, wherein it's kind of acknowledged that people will probably break the first rule. Oh, Bitcoin now down to 3,100, still going. While it continuing to move here down today is a little disconcerting, isn't it? As you already mentioned, I was thinking about whether his techniques are still working nowadays. Yeah. So let me explain to you why there's an issue with his techniques, because I think that that's important to understand. And I think the one that really keyed me on to the issues with this was Gary Norton. And he does a webinar on Futures IO called the Institutional Trading Day, where he talks about what things an institutional trader does during the day and how that all works. And he talks about how, you know, when you see something happen on the DOM, say an iceberg shows up or a large order shows up or a lot trades in a certain location, do you know why that's happening? Because you don't know if that's an entry or an exit or what's going on. And so it's hard to make money off of that because you want to, you know, if you think that you see a big iceberg and so you join the iceberg and you buy it, then you're kind of saying, somebody else big is buying too. So I want to be along with that. But if that person is selling, then that doesn't really give you a good trade, does it? Because it's not going to go anywhere after that, right? But there are some edge cases where you know because of news that's going on and the situation why that's happening. For instance, if it's an auction day, if it's an auction in the 10-year and I see an iceberg, chances are that it is because of the auction. So if I'm already short, that spot is probably a good idea to get out, because when you get an iceberg like that on an auction day, they're huge and it's really hard for them to get through it, right? So it requires more information than just what you see on the order flow usually to really get a solid trade out of it. Okay, well, we've got about 10 minutes until the equities open. They're continuing to trade down a little bit, though. There he is. We were just talking about you, Eagle Eyes. He is waiting for you. Yeah, it's all up in my sinus cavity here. Colin Powell, I can no longer call myself a fellow Republican. So does that mean nowadays it's not possible to trade with only the DOM and nothing else? Sorry for my Nubis questions. Well, I believe that, but I can't prove that, Victor. Maybe somebody out there has some technical signal that they watch on the DOM and they make really consistent money with it, but I have been unable to do so. My best trades are usually based around news. Li Shanxiao says Secretary Pompeo will be remembered as the byword of lies and madness in history. Oh, good grief. Yeah. So if I was starting again, here's what I would do. First, I would go on Jigsaw Trading and I would watch the videos that they have on their channel that you can watch for free. I would go and watch those. Next, I would go on Futures.io and I would watch the webinars that John Grady has done and that Peter Davies from Jigsaw have done on Futures.io. You might need their membership, the Futures.io membership, and still to do that. And you know what? There's some things that really irk me about Futures.io, about how they use everybody's indicators to make money, but I still think that it's a good value and I would still buy it. So that's the one that I would always do, especially if you're planning on trading with NinjaTrader 8. And then the next thing that I would do is I would go to like the Forex Factory calendar, for instance. So I'll show you here. So I would come to Forex Factory, and when you come in here, it'll show you all of the news events that are happening that week, right? So CPI, for instance, what is CPI? And then it says change in the price of goods and services purchased by consumers. And then I'd come in here, it says the Bureau of Government Statistics. Publications. Reports. Actually, you know what? Let's just search Google for it. CPI report. CPI home. So when you come in here, okay, CPI home, CPI methods, handbook of methods, quality, white papers, technical notes, additional resources. There's all of this stuff here, right? Consumer Price Index is a measure of the average change in time and the prices paid by urban consumers for a representative basket of consumer goods and services. Quick facts. So here's an overview, concepts. Here you go. This is great. Structure and classification items. How it goes through all this stuff about the thing. Data sources. Okay, where does it get it? There's using 2010 consensus population data. We select the urban areas in which data on prices are collected and choose the housing units within each area that are eligible for use in the shelter component in CPI. Like here they go into everything about how that report is created, right? Right? So what I would do is I would go through every significant report on here and make sure I understand what it is. That's the second thing I would do. And then I would get a DOM and get it up and running and just watch it for a long time. Oh, and I would get a news squawk service like Financial Juice you can do for $70 a month. Start listening to the news as it comes across. Goldman, the virus deterioration and resulting more severe restrictions have persuaded us to cut our Q1 UK and Euro area GDP numbers into negative territory. Oh. Okay. Got 5 minutes to the open here. Can the GOP find courage to defy Trump? You know what's going to happen is there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to leave the party and it'll only be the Trumpers left. So kind of what it looks like it's going towards. It's getting weird. I want to see Twitter get rocked right. It's going to be interesting to see. I have to say, oh yeah, by the way, I can't see him. Of course, I forgot about all that. He was saying like they're talking to people and stuff about like what, you know, a new place for him to tweet, but we haven't heard anything out of it yet. So I don't know what's going on over there. But for Twitter, I really believe that this is a real problem for them. Like Twitter was kind of having problems before Donald Trump came along. And Donald Trump coming along really kind of solidified them as the place to find breaking news and stuff like that. Oh man, all three of my strategies are taking a trade here. Think about it from an activity standpoint, right? Internet activity is fighting. Bottom line, you nuke half the fighters, and what's Twitter left with? Right. You're gonna have half of the people leave that platform. With Donald Trump not on there anymore, it's irrelevant. But I mean, I guess the whole thing is that without Donald Trump, it pretty much destroys the entire use case for Twitter, right? People aren't on Twitter because they have good friends there and they have good solid interactions with each other and love talking to each other all the time and all that, right? That's not what they're on Twitter for at all. They're on Twitter to influence people. And if one side of the aisle can't do that anymore, there's no reason to use Twitter. So on Zero Hedge, they were speculating that would even be a reason for the investors to sue Twitter, because the way that they're running the platform is not what was in the prospectus when they did their IPO. And I think that's a really solid argument. Yeah, think of all the Trump reply guys who built massive followings now left with huge pointless Twitter accounts. Exactly. So I think it's a real problem for Twitter, and yeah, they're going down overnight, but we'll see what happens to them on the open. When I get this stuff really going in the back of my throat, it makes me almost hurl. It kind of exemplifies that social media companies think they're so big and important they don't need millions more members to maximize profits. Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is like Facebook, for instance, it wouldn't be such a problem, right? Twitter is the one that is kind of questionable. Like, this is why I have been bearish. I want to say I've been bearish Twitter for a long time. I never liked them, to be honest with you. Just to show for the leftists so they won't be broken up. No, I remember way before Donald Trump, back when it was Obama. And there was this other service, and I can't remember the name of it anymore, but it was basically like Twitter was taken off, and I missed that one. And it kind of turned in, I tried making an account and doing some stuff, but I found it extremely difficult to get a following on Twitter. And so there was other people starting competing microblogging services. And so there was this one website that they had something like Twitter, but the cool thing about theirs was that you could attach files. So I used that one for a long time until, they gave up the ghost and the people that ran it went to other places. So that was kind of, Victor says, thanks for your reply. No, thank you very much for coming in. So I ended up watching Twitter, though, because some of those same key players were over on this other networking site. And the thing that I noticed right away was that the social justice warrior type people were out there in force. And this was long before it really became a cultural issue. The pronouns and all that, these types of people. And something that stood out to me immediately was that some of the community managers, like the people on Twitter that worked for Twitter and were part of the community outreach stuff, were all 100% in on this social justice warrior stuff, right? So fast forward to today, Twitter has always been a woke company, and they started, showing that through their actions as a business. And when you combine that together with the fact that Twitter doesn't do anything incredibly special, to duplicate the functionality of Twitter, you could duplicate the functionality of Twitter in a day. It wouldn't be as scalable as Twitter is. Okay, that's a totally different issue, but just the base functionality of it is not hard. And so there's no wonder that they got it's down 10%. There's no wonder that you're getting these things like Gab and the other one. Anyways, It's no surprise. And I really think that as a company, that they have a real issue here with the future, because how are they going to continue to grow and make money? And I just don't see it. And this drop, Donald Trump being gone, yeah, it could be the beginning of the end for them. Of course, Twitter, the website, will never die. Just come back and they'll sell it to somebody else or something like that. It'll go down and they'll get bought out by Google or something like that. Or Microsoft. I think Microsoft would make more sense. Well, the Treasury's coming back down, and the E-mini on the initial move so far has been up. Twitter moving down, though, pretty hard. Let's see, what is volatility doing? Volatility opened quite a bit higher from what it was yesterday, so I think that some caution is still in order here. Twitter existed before Trump, and I don't think so. I mean, you're right that Twitter existed before Trump, but I think the issue is that Twitter was dying before this whole thing anyways. And so Trump kind of gave them second life, and now that that is gone, I don't really see how they... Bank of America sees a risk of churn as conservative community leaves platform. You know, we had that reversal a little bit in the 17 to 19 areas, so I'm a little surprised at just how easily they come back down through here in the 10-year. But I think that is largely due to what's going on in the E-mini right now. Okay, this is kind of some odd behavior there. Twitter was trading around $14 a share before Donald Trump, really? And there hasn't been any splits or anything since then? Okay, well, there was that initial move up, and they're now pushing back down. Which should make note that the low from Friday was 37.74. And Nvidia taking off quite nicely. What about Lululemon? Lululemon. Oh, I need to change this to be like a 5-minute chart. Get rid of the volume. I don't want the volume. Okay. Ooh, so that was a pretty ugly downturn. It's only 2%, but it looks awful on the chart. Doesn't Lulu just make yoga pants? Yes. They are an athleisure clothing company, is what they call it. Athleisure. I had never heard of them until I started weightlifting. And it was like, oh yeah, Lululemons are the best place to get workout pants, shorts, whatever. And I wish I had bought the stock back then, man. It's crazy to me how popular it's become since then. Very important company. Then yoga pants make the world more bearable. Yeah, they really are the best yoga pants. So. Unless you want compression, then you want Virus International. Virus has the best compression. Trust me. It's kind of struggling down there, isn't it? So they've retraced that initial move up, and it looks like they're gonna. Okay, they kind of touched the low of the regular session, but backed off of it. Note though that the cumulative delta didn't equalize back out. Where does that put us? Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, I should have done it right there. Should have done it way down towards the bottom end of this the volume profile area. Being a little choppy again today for me. Let's fix that. I'm just going to change this to 100. Okay, so there's a little bit more decline in cumulative delta when we did that. Okay. Struggling a little with 3790A. Ouch. Hmm. Well, it's still pretty choppy here. SIGL is up 51%. What is that? Hmm. Oh man, that was a terrible pick. Sure is. Sure is being difficult today, isn't it? Dang. What the heck? Hmm. So we're kind of getting some strange volume rushes. Both directions, really. More ESL, right? I mean, I think I've just been incredibly unlucky here, but often when it gets like this, that's not a good sign, right? Man. Well, I've got 3 buys and 3 sells, and so far they've all been losers. So perhaps we're just we're in a range, and I've been picking the bad ends of the range. So the shorts that I took were all down in here. What about our robots? Oh, one of them, Brandon, hasn't done so hot today. But at least he's trading. That's good. Well, and then of course I take it in exactly the wrong moment. So that one I hit into it, and as soon as I hit it, it bounced. I really can't. Well, I mean, it must be because of this range. Clearly, if I want to buy it, I need to do it around 80, below 85, and if I want to sell it, I want to do it around 90. Because these have all been within this 5-point range in here, and I've lost on almost every single, and I'm not getting very much favorable ticks on any of them either. Easy day to lose a K before the first 20 minutes. Well, I've lost one on sim, but I've lost 150. Moving back to bed instead? Oh, man. Watch this one be the time that it breaks out. Hmm. And look at the E-mini, or sorry, the 10-year just kind of hanging on the edge there. This is awful. Okay, so one of the Bank of England guys said something and it's moving the currencies. Hold up here. Man, am I still getting some... Yeah. You know, I didn't get this problem until I started using this Rhythmic setup. So I'm thinking that it must be that the settings are all wrong here. Let's see here. Well, I did finally get one to work. There it is, preferences. What if I set that to no max? What does that do? No. I don't know. Seems like 10 updates per second should be fine, but... Oh, maybe I need to go change... Change this market depth throttle to 20, maybe. See if that helps. So we are running out of CPU. Sugar Daddy says this is a good day. Eh. Not doing so hot. Oh, you know what it is. It's Fidelity. Well, Twitter has recovered its initial downturn, so I don't think we need to have this open anymore. So that should help a little bit, yeah. Well, I tried hitting into those lows in the 10-year and it didn't work out, but I guess that's what you get. This one's not going to work. Excuse me. AMD and NVM. I'm sure AMD should be leading, shouldn't it? Well, it's very clearly trending upright. It's just being really slow about it. There was definitely some people shorting it, like actively shorting it too, off of that open. What? Penny stock signal explodes. Oh, that's right. There's this stock called Signal, and Elon Musk said use Signal, and so they thought maybe they mean that stock, and so that stock went up. Always something. There you go. There's a new high. There's a little push back. So as I was saying, so something's fighting it today. Well, I still think 3,800 is doable here. There, I think I finally got whatever was in my nose bothering me there, man. Whew. Okay. That's a little curious, that long there. Still thinking about blowing my nose there. That was weird. It felt weird. When it just come out, and I was like, oh, that feels so good. Bank of America Global Research raises price objective for NVIDIA from 625 to... Oh, wait, what? They're reading this wrong. 625 to 665. They're saying to 625 from 665, but 665 is higher. You say that your Benzinga's quack. I think for me that Fidelity causes interrupts because since we've turned it off, we're not having the same issues, right? Oh, whoops, that's the wrong one. I'll open it back up and see if there's settings about how many updates per second that one does. Oh, okay. You can set it to update like. I'm going to set it to every 5 seconds and see what that does. Oh, of course it doesn't save all the changes that we made. Well, Twitter is bouncing pretty good so far. He is kind of running out of fuel up here. For the time being, at least. Look at NVIDIA go. There it goes. Man, if this goes back up. Don't worry, it'll go back. Well, did you see that I was one tick away from being stopped out? I don't know. That move down kind of looked like it was just testing down, and there wasn't real. The sellers really didn't want to, and so they're moving back up. But so it wasn't really strong or excessive in either direction, except for there was this sell right here. Which, given the location, could just be profit taking, right? So. Yeah, turning back down again. I'm still thinking about it. The freaking. Everything that I've been getting out of my nose has been like clearish, and that was green. Had green in it. Yeah. Well, why is it I can just get one blow? Because that had to happen yesterday. I got one blow in the beginning of the day, and then nothing else the rest of the day. Yeah. Body process, something like that. I don't know. The darkness of the color might have some blood in it too. Chris says getting mints on my first combine today. Wow. Yeah. Well, it's been a choppy rangeman day, hasn't it? I definitely have not seen action this difficult in a long, long time. Although I think that there's something about the way I was taking it, and I think in this case it was probably was that I was waiting too long. Since since I didn't have a super I mean, I guess I believed that we were going to move up eventually, but I wasn't a really strong believer in it. So I was buying it towards the higher end of the range, and then they just go down to the other end and stop me out first, right? Well, the Aces trade was a short before the open, right? Unless you took it another one when they crossed the way back. We'd have to go back and look. There was one that I took that was kind of in your spot. It was way back here. Yeah. It was like one of this one right here. 3787. Eventually it did go though. You seen that? No, yeah, you did. You got the short before the open, yes. Well, my robots all seem to like it long here for whatever reason. At least it's not a personal account. Well, as long as you didn't blow the combine. One of the things I'm noticing with my robots is that they are so... How do I say this? They manage the risk so well that even when the account has a bad day, it's very easy for it to make that back up. I mean, like, especially the Fourier strat. Sorry, especially Joseph. He makes something like $1,000 on a trade. So when I have a bad day and I lose like 400, 600, and then it's just like this one strategy wipes it all out. No, I didn't blow it, but I'm not doing good. Well, that's okay. The question still remains, what could we have seen or looked at that would have made us know that it would have been bad trading? Well, it was a Monday. Mondays are always difficult, right? And the difficulty is that when I look back at the chart, it doesn't look so bad. It looks like, hey, that's just a buy. So, I don't know. Cycles. Well, this one thing is using cycles of sorts. I could come back and try and look at some other indicators that might help us pick the cycles a little bit better for sure. The thing is I really was catching it when it was like, it looked like it was like a cycle was through and it was pushing up. Man, we just haven't been getting that, right? Say that doing a Fourier series analysis seems to work pretty good though. Pretty good bust through 3,800. Cool. So Brandon made up. You know what? It took 3 trades today, didn't it? Let's go look. Strategy, performance, real-time, and historical. Oh. Those are all today? Oh no, this is from 1-6. How do I... Well, that's good. I missed a long today. Is that trades? 11. Oh, okay. So what was this one? 716. Um, how do you tell if it's buying or selling? I guess I can just say short. It did. $7.16. So that one was short. Then I guess it tried the long twice, and then it got it. So that one looks like it is working correctly. That was Brandon. And it's overall it's up over the up over the time period that we've been using it. Oh, can I use let's see here. Let's see here. If I just come into like trade performance, perhaps. Oh, yeah. Wait. Is that for real? From the 4th to the 11th. It's up 25. Wait. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm going to use the bathroom. Okay, so let me pull it over here actually. Did I really take 97 trades yet last week? So if I come over into here, it should give me the entry names and stuff. These are Travis and stuff. Oh yeah. A lot of these were these other strategies though. Brandon Joseph overextended, yeah. Um, 51% win rate. And look, my average winning trade is larger than my average losing trade. So That's really good results. Especially when there are some strategies in there that were really bad, right? So hopefully this week will be even better. And the robots are doing pretty good today, even though they got chopped around a bit at the open. They've made almost $1,000 today. But the thing that we want to look at is in this analysis bit here. What was the max drawdown in currency? Is $1,000, right? So I'm thinking that we couldn't trade a whole ES contract with this, right? We would probably need to, maybe we would need to trade, let's say four micros. Maximum 4. Well, maybe we could just say it was 1 micro. I wonder, does Top Step do anything different for micros? Because when you look at that, if we only did, let's say 5 contracts, then we would be safe, but we'd only be, 1,700. We'd be halfway there in a week. I guess after a week, that's good. Is that a live demo test? I'm running the strategies on demo. Yeah. But I think that the last week's performance shouldn't count. It really should be from the 11th going forward, because there was a couple of strategies that didn't make it that we had some issues with and that we got rid of. So we'll really be watching it. How does it do this week? But the next 2 weeks, or until it passes, I guess. But I'm pretty happy with it so far. I guess the other thing is that we do need to change it so that it actually takes it in the micros. Maybe we should do that, huh? And let's see here. I can close that. Can you change which instrument it's going to trade? I guess all of those indicators, all of those strategies are adding data series anyways. Except for the 4-year one, but that's still... Let's see here. Because when I come over to like enter long, there's not one that tells you which. Yeah, there's not. It doesn't. There's not one that allows you to change to a different instrument. So what I'll have to do, since we are going to have to do it with micro contracts. By the way, let's reset that. I should maybe move these guys over into their own folder too. But for instance, this one, we added data series, 1 minute data series. So we can just say add data series 1 minute ES and then have it take the trades in the micro. So we'll have it do that. Sugar Daddy says I'm hungry. And let's see here. Did my other one take a profit? Yes, it did. So there's still inventory bars working here. Oh, and it wants to get what now? Oh, 7? Well, that is doable. And I'm feeling really good about the robots right now. I've never gotten them this far, you know? By the way, there is a big drop off in cumulative delta going on here in the E-mini. Merkel finds Twitter's ban of Trump's account problematic, says The Hill. Really? Oh, you know what? I didn't even notice. We didn't even go into the dollar, but the dollar has been doing well today, has it? I mean, it's not good for everybody else, but the dollar is on a 3-day winning streak now and has overcome some significant resistance even. Yeah. This is going to be. That's why it was so difficult. That really explains what's going on. CNBC headline. That's weird. I mean, I would just ignore that headline, to be honest. It doesn't change anything. Like McConnell said, they won't be able to look at that until next week, so. I heard she can start today, but so what'll happen, Vlad, is they will do the impeachment articles in the House and probably even pass them tomorrow. But then the Senate has to pick it up, and the Senate isn't in session and isn't available to pick them up until January 19th. So basically, the Senate wouldn't be able to even start a trial and all of this other stuff until Donald Trump is out of office. And I don't think that they're going to prevail. I mean, sure, it can be a totally political vote, but I don't think that the Republicans will probably all vote in favor of him because they're going to say that what he did wasn't impeachable. Like, free speech. They can't say that he incited insurrection. It's not. We certainly wouldn't be able to prove that in a regular court of law, right? Okay, the treasuries are coming up there. Did they actually hit? They did hit into it, and then they decided to tick up. That's interesting. Do you think they'll push through a 2K stimulus now? I'm not sure because the Manchin was saying basically that he didn't support $2,000 stimulus checks, but he kind of caught himself and got more nuanced about it. So I don't really know what the deal is with that. Doing the Donald Trump impeachment certainly would push stimulus back. I really kind of wonder, like, the budget that they're trying to push through might cause some other issues. We'll have to see when they get into it. It's probably a lot more sophisticated than we anticipate, though. Like, we think it's all just they get 1,000, they get the 2,000 or they don't get the 2,000 and the market goes up or down based off of that. But clearly we're getting some movement in the dollar is the biggest thing. That should give us some pause. Hmm. So this is a spot where the E-mini might turn back around and move back up. But at the moment, it doesn't really look like that, does it? You're still getting some aggressive selling, and the cumulative delta is definitely low. It's got hitting new lows of the day. Marketeer says, Bitcoin, do you dare? What? Why did you say that about ES? Cumulative delta is hitting new low of the day. Here. Like, that's just the case. I don't know if it means anything. I wonder, has this dollar strength affected Bitcoin? Oh, Bitcoin looks like they could go for another dip. US 10-year getting overbought? What? The US 10-year has gone from 0.9% to 1.13 in 6 sessions. The move has certainly created a lot of frustration, mainly among the CTA Stroud. We do not have the latest stats, but according to Nomura, they started cutting losses above 1.02% and have been chasing the inverse momentum trade above. Above 1.1%, the yield's higher narrative is strong, but no, we are reaching rather overbought levels. We remain true to our can reach 1.2% in this breakout logic for now, i.e. the yield's higher is diminishing as an attractive short-term view. Last time it was this overbought, yields reversed lower. Yeah, there's Gary. Anyone catch a disease? No. Not anything new, at least. Washington Monument closing due to safety concerns. You know, when I was there last time, I wasn't allowed to go in the Washington Monument because of safety concerns. You missed your short? We could still go long here. I don't know. You're getting divergence. It doesn't tell us that it's going to make a new low or a new high or not or anything. It is in a spot that I could potentially think about buying it. In fact. Okay. I'd rather buy it down here, but marriage is where all men's dreams go to die, kind of like this price action. It is difficult, right? Well, I had a lot of losers in a row, and I think that was largely picking bad prices, but they were both buys and sells. The market is really range bound, and the dollar has been overall moving up. I really wish that I had noticed that earlier in the day. Because that's something that I should have been factoring in from the very beginning. So here's another one that I keep seeing is majority says Trump should be removed from office, but majority said that in the polling when they impeached him the first time. It's like... In BGS, invoking the 25th is an insurrection of another sort. I agree with you, Archie. But I don't think that with the impeachment, I don't think they should do it. I don't think legally that they really have the case. And I think that if they do impeach him, that it ends up just being a political thing. And that you're setting a very negative precedent for trying to impeach everybody, They don't care. They want Republicans on record voting no. Yeah, but that's when it comes into, okay, well, what are you giving up to make that happen, right? That ends up being such a big distraction, especially if he's already out of office, And I don't think they can get 2/3 of the Senate. I really don't. He's not getting the Republican nomination again. The Dems should let him attempt a third party. I don't think that he'll run again, period, to be honest with you. The issue that you have now is that I think that Donald Trump has lost all of his political capital. Like, even amongst a lot of his followers, a lot of them were very upset that he told them to just go home. They're like, wait, you had us come all the way out here and then nothing happened? You know what I mean? They're not happy either. Like, this is why was so funny, if you missed it earlier, seeing guys like Ed Morrissey saying that they're leaving the Republican Party now. It's like, okay, so if the establishment Republicans hate the Republican Party and don't want to be Republicans anymore, and all of the MAGA crowd hates the Republican Party and doesn't want to be Republican anymore, then who's left in the party? He will form his own network. That would have been a nice thing for him to have done like a month ago, but now I feel like it's too late even for that. So He could certainly try, but who would want to go into business with him for that? The R party will come kiss the rings. I don't know, man. Kind of looks like the Republican Party is finished. I guess what we're talking about political commentators, it's pretty easy for them to say, I'm not a Republican anymore, and then come back in a month and be like, oh, I was just kidding, guys. He will be the equivalent of Lyndon LaRouche. I'm not familiar with that name. New York Fed survey U.S. consumers see prices rising by 3.6%, up from 3% in November and highest since July of 2018. Nobody knows who he is. I see. Well, either way, the point was that he's very much lost his political capital. What do you think are the best hours to trade futures? From 8:20 to 10:30 Eastern time? Sorry, actually more like 11:30 Eastern time. After 11:30 Eastern time, you got to be careful because the London traders go away and the liquidity is significantly reduced. And you want 6:20 because that's, or sorry, 8:20, 6:20 my time. It's 8:20 Eastern time, because that is when the 10-year Treasury bit opens. He ran for president a few times and would buy a half hour of network time every cycle. Well, if Donald Trump ran again, I'm sure that the media would make a big deal out of it and everything, but I just don't think that he would get the votes for sure. I think that he, like I said, he's wasted too much political capital on this last thing. And that's the thing that's really like, I think the thing that really kills him in terms of political capital, it's not just that like he incited or people believe that he is partially responsible for an attack on the Capitol building. I'm personally not all that bothered by the attack on the Capitol building. I mean, it was a bunch of boomers standing around in the building. Nothing happened. If the police hadn't overreacted, it would have been nothing. But what really kills it for him is that he made this big deal. I mean, he said all of my supporters be down there on January 6th or whenever it was. He made a big deal out of it. People came from across the country, and then you find out what was his plan. He gave a speech, and that was it. He did all that so that they could have a speech, and Mike Pence would say that the certification has been canceled or something. You know, like the whole idea was just ill-fated from the get-go. So Mike Pence said, well, I'm going to investigate this issue and go through the history of it and everything. And anybody that knows anything about the particular procedures and history behind certification of this result could have told you that Mike Pence wasn't going to reject it. Not single-handedly, no way. So the whole thing was poorly conceived from the beginning. And the Donald Trump supporters have to be asking themselves now if they're really willing to continue along with it. Because, for a long time it was kind of like, well, we know he's crazy, but we've gotten stuff done and we've been successful with him. Well, I think that he lost a lot of the smarter people in his administration. He's not a traitor. I'm sorry, but saying that the vote was rigged and that Democrats cheated on the vote doesn't make you a traitor. This is just, I think, just absolutely crazy. Yeah, and he can come in and say that it is within his prerogative to say that Democrats cheated and that there was voter irregularities and that the vote shouldn't be certified. He is perfectly within his rights to say that, and anybody else is. It's not illegal. The claim that that's an impeachable offense is frankly a little dangerous. So what if he lost people? Well, the whole point is that I don't think that he has enough support even amongst his own supporters now to be able to run for president again, or even really make a network or anything of that nature. Like, he should have listened, but I mean, I was saying it from the beginning. You should just shut up, and make your own news network, and build on trying to make the things that you've been pushing for. Try and play the long game, but he couldn't do it. He always doubles down. Asking the Secretary of State of Georgia to find votes, that is not what happened, Ace. So frankly, I would challenge you to go and watch the full unedited video of that and listen to what they were saying. The argument between Donald Trump and the Secretary of State was that Donald Trump believes that there was voter fraud, and that the number of discrepancies that they have found far outnumbers the difference between the votes. And he says all you have to do is find this many votes and it would be invalidated. And that was the argument that he was making. To say that he was saying, no, you have to just come up with votes and do something illegal is just an absolutely ridiculous misreading of what was actually going on in that situation. That is the media has completely blown that out of proportions. That is not what happened. He asked him to find votes. That's not what he asked. I bet you don't even know why they were having a discussion in the first place, right? Because this was all about mediation on this court case. Like, the whole thing, the thing that's funny about it is that the argument here was that they said, well, the Georgia people said, well, your numbers, your information is wrong. There wasn't any voter fraud. And the Trump administration said, fine, then give us the information so we can verify ourselves. And the people of Georgia refused, right? That is why they were even talking. And they're saying there's no evidence of voter fraud. And so Donald Trump says, look, here are all of these different discrepancies that we found. And based off of our estimates, it's more than what the difference between the vote was. And that's all he was saying. It breaks my heart to hear you, just because I understand the actual situation and correct, frankly, false information. Like, frankly, saying that Donald Trump told the Attorney General to make up votes, that's false. That is demonstrably false. Tesla keeps surprising you. Well, it's going to take something significant to really change the state of affairs over on Tesla, right? If they're in a bubble, bubbles don't just pop. It usually takes something to flip the momentum around, you know? He said fine votes. Yeah, because there are a number of discrepancies where they believe that there was voter fraud, that votes could be found. There's nothing illegal about that, dude. If there was voter fraud and they go and search and they find that voter fraud and make up, 10,000 votes and it turns over to Donald Trump, this is not illegal. Well, their belief doesn't make it true, but it doesn't make what he said illegal. Right? You understand? You guys are pushing for removal of a guy from office and setting this huge historical precedent because he said something that you don't like. Then bring the evidence of voter fraud. Ace, they tried to bring evidence of voter fraud on over 60 occasions, and on almost none of those cases did it actually go to trial where they could have presented that information. So it's not illegal. What he said was not illegal. What law did he break? It's illegal to tell the attorney general, or sorry, the secretary of Georgia to do their job? It's because there was no evidence. I don't believe that's true. You know what? You can't sit down and say there's no evidence and then because there was never a trial. When they believe that they have evidence. And since it never went to trial, we cannot conclusively say what the nature of the evidence actually was. No, it's about it being illegal to find. It's not. It's not illegal to tell the Georgia secretary to investigate instances of voter fraud. The media, yeah, there you go. RJ Will, the media edit is egregious. It is. And no point has anyone ever. Well, their claim is that if the authorities actually did their job, that they would. And I can't say because I don't have that information. That's the thing that's, again, ridiculous about it, is that the secretary in Georgia says, your information is wrong. We can prove to you that there was no wide-scale evidence. And they say, okay, show us, and then they won't show it. Right? This is like what you're saying is like, oh, hey guys, I made $1 million this year. And then you said, okay, Seth, prove it. And I say, well, no, I don't have to. And then would you believe me? No, you wouldn't. That's ridiculous. And so all I'm saying is that the secretary of Georgia, they haven't backed any of their claims. They refuse to give us the information. That's what was happening in that call. You go and listen to the whole call. I know what I'm fucking talking about. Show what? That there was no wide-scale evidence? Well, so for instance, one of the claims that the Donald Trump administration made was that X thousand people that are dead voted. And they did that by going through the voter rolls and finding people that showed that they had voted, but have obituaries for them in the last 10 years or whatever the deal is, right? So they present that information. Georgia says, well, we only have two people did that. And we know that none of these other instances that actually happened. So how do you know that? They haven't provided the evidence of it. The Georgia secretary refuses to give it to the public so that it can be double checked. But it's not illegal to tell the Secretary of State that there was voter fraud and that they should be investigating it. That's not illegal. It's illegal to try and influence the results. Dude, it's every president, everybody that's ever run for office has tried to, quote unquote, influence the result by trying to get votes included or excluded and all of this, right? Yeah, but there's another issue. The call is edited. The call is illegal from the Trump. It is. Right. What would be illegal is if he said you need to come up with 10,000 votes, just make them up out of thin air. It's not, well, the reason you say it's a poor argument, everyone does it. You know why everyone does it, Ace? Because it's legal. If you think there's fraud, it's incumbent to push for an investigation. Exactly. Especially, when you're doing court mediation. Influenced politically, stuff was rigged secretly. Well, let me say this. If they hadn't implemented mail-in voting in all of those states, which frankly, the way that they did it was illegal, then I think Donald Trump would have won. Okay, well, you can say that nobody has brought any evidence of wide-scale fraud. That's fine if you want to believe that. But the fact of the matter is that they don't believe that, and it's not illegal for them to believe that, and it's not illegal for them to push that it be investigated. The vote wasn't even that close. I mean, in Georgia, it was pretty. In those states where they mattered, it was very close. I guess it wasn't it was just as close as last time around, but all of those elections were close. But I'm still making the claim that if they didn't have mail-in voting, that Donald Trump would have won. You know what? If you want to see what they believe is evidence, then I'm sure you can go out and find that. Mr. Who was this guy that in the administration? The trade negotiator guy, I think it was. He wrote a whole report explaining the different sources of voter fraud and discrepancies that they believed existed and where they were getting those numbers from. They have the burden of proof. But that's the thing, is they have provided that. Right? What you're doing is you're saying, you have no evidence, and then they say, here's our evidence, and then you say, well, you have no evidence. No, they've already provided the burden of proof, so now you have to argue about the proof that they have provided now. We're past that, right? That was like 3 months ago. They're past that, right? They've provided evidence. Now it's the job of the prosecution and the defense to prove whether that information proves that there was voter fraud or not. Where is this evidence? Go and do some web searching, dude. I just gave you one example of where one of Donald Trump's advisors wrote a 10-page report about it. Or you could go and look at all of the court cases that got rejected on standing, and you could look at the evidence that they submitted in their filings there. Why hasn't this overwhelming evidence convinced the experts? I honestly don't believe that they've really looked at it, to be honest with you. So every case that I see, like, that's the thing, is that I'll go and look at it. They would submit stuff to a court, and then the court would say, well, you don't have standing. So you didn't really get to go through it, right? Many things like this. Or it will be dismissed without evidence, right? So you get, like in Georgia, so Donald Trump says that people voted for dead people, and the Georgia government says no, they didn't, but the Georgia government is not providing the data that they have that proves that didn't happen. Ace Richard says that the evidence of vote fraud is massive because he read the filings. Well, this is the whole thing. Is that to be frank with you, the most of the people that are saying there's no evidence aren't saying that because they went and they did a strong investigation and they read it. It's because that's what they've been told by the media, to be honest. It straight up is. Because here again, there has been a lot of evidence submitted, and I have not seen, in many cases at least, there are a couple of cases where I've seen arguments made against them, But certainly none of those ever made it into court. So from my perspective, I can't say that there was or there wasn't, because the way that I would be able to tell if there was or there wasn't is if evidence was submitted before a court and then a court made a decision based off of that evidence. But since that never happened, the court cases were always dismissed based on standing. We can't say that. That my opinion is that legally it was never tested. That's my opinion. Well, I guess that's not really opinion. That's my opinion is that that's what matters, is that legally it was never tested. Yeah, exactly. You have to get in the court first before you can prove it, and the courts poured Trump out consistently without hearing any evidence. That's true. And you'd have to go into every individual case to see what their reasoning was on why they said that they didn't have a case. But now, to the point where it says, look, all I want to do is this. I want to find 11,780 votes, which is more than we have because we won the state. So what is Donald Trump saying there? He's saying that the Democrats cheated and that the amount of cheating and discrepancy is greater than the 11,009. Sorry, you just said something and it moved down. That was greater than the 11,780 votes that exist out there. That's a legitimate point for him to make. Ace, if you say no evidence has been offered, that is demonstrably false. And again, you can go and look at hundreds of court filings. There is a ton of information where you can go and you can look at the supposed evidence that has been presented. Do you see the fallacy in the argument that you're making? The argument that you should be making is, here is the evidence that is provided, and here is why that evidence is false, or it doesn't prove that there was voter fraud. Why aren't you making that argument? Because you're too lazy to go out and find the supposed evidence that they claim proves voter fraud. But they went and they found that evidence, and they made hundreds of court cases about it. Why hasn't it convinced the folks? We already covered this as well. You're turning around in circles. It hasn't been taken to court because none of the people that filed supposedly have standing. In fact, the most ridiculous case here was that the Donald Trump campaign went and filed, and they were told that they didn't have standing because the election already happened. So then the Republicans went back in that same state and they said there have been changes been made to the voting process that are illegal, and then they said, hey, you don't have any standing because the vote hasn't happened yet. So it doesn't matter whether you challenged it before the vote or after the vote, you don't have standing to challenge it. What kind of bullshit is that? The burden of the proof is on the people who are making the proof. Great. I totally agree with you. That proof has already been submitted. If you want to argue that point, Ace, you're going to have to go and look at those court filings and see what they are and prove whether there were good evidence or bad evidence. Democrat bullshit. Well, I'm just telling you what happened. You say that a mainstreamer like Axios or the New York Times will do a story about shenanigans? Well, you know, the thing that I think is the most ridiculous about this is that in the 2016 election, Democrats claimed that there was voter fraud, right? And then nothing happened, but they claimed that there was voter fraud. It doesn't look like anybody took it seriously or that they investigated it, right? But they made that claim. And now all of a sudden it's ridiculous to make to say anything about it. Well, let's see here. What happened? Oh, the Fourier strategy took another one, and inventory bars ended up getting stopped out of its trade. Okay. So you think I know that there have been multiple court cases filed where evidence was submitted with those court cases. And in pretty much and we're talking about like 60 different court cases. And in like 60 out of 65 different court cases, those cases were dismissed because of lack of standing and didn't have anything to do with the evidence. So, because that evidence was never actually presented in court and a real ruling made based off of that evidence, I cannot say how legitimate that supposed evidence is or isn't. I can only say that they claim to have evidence and that they submitted it in their court filings. Oh, it's not secret. If you just go and you look at the court filing, you will see the evidence that they were presenting. I think he's a little delayed. It's like, but the claim is good enough for you. No, the claim isn't good. I mean, they claim they have evidence. That doesn't mean that it is. But I mean, that's really the point that I'm getting at. Don't you think that it would have been better for them to actually just have a full court case and say, okay, well, here's the evidence that you presented, but that doesn't prove voter fraud, and gone through the whole thing? And then they would have been able to say conclusively, look, we had all of these court cases and they looked at the evidence and they made the decision that it didn't constitute voter fraud. And then there would be no question about it. But see, the reason why there's a problem is because we didn't do that, because we just said, oh, you don't have standing, and no, there's nothing there. We'll just ignore all of the stuff that you're presenting. And so a honest person cannot really say, because it was not actually investigated. If the evidence is non-existent, they submitted evidence. It doesn't help you when you make another argument off of something that we already proved is incorrect, Ace. This circular reasoning is kind of getting a little irritating. Like, we've proven that there was evidence was submitted. So you can't say that, oh, well, there was nothing there. So you're believing a claim? I didn't say that I believed the claim. I said they submitted evidence of voter fraud. Let's just go back. Let me make it clear what the claims that I am making. Okay? Claim one that I'm making is that the conversation that Donald Trump had with the Secretary of in Georgia, Secretary of State, or what? That's not the Secretary of State. What do they call it? I forget what the name of this position. Okay, but anyways, the conversation that Donald Trump had with the state of Georgia was not illegal. 1. Okay. 2. The comments that Donald Trump made and the whole organizing of the event on the 6th does not constitute insurrection. It's just freedom of speech and is not an impeachable offense. Claim number 3 that I'm making on as a side is that there has been evidence brought forth and submitted to courts in court filings that you can go out and read that claim to be evidence of voter fraud. And I cannot verify whether it is really evidence of voter fraud or not, because I am not a court or a lawyer, and the court didn't actually look at that evidence. So we will never know, because it wasn't tested legally. Those are the 3 claims that I'm making. Okay, well, if you want to disagree with those things, I think I've already proven you wrong. If you're Donald Trump and you say, okay, like, we're going to go and march down the mall here towards the Capitol, and we think that there's been voter fraud and that they should decertify the results, how is that insurrection? If Donald Trump had gotten on stage and said, I want you guys to all go into Congress and kill all of the members of the Senate that are Democrats and overthrow the government, then maybe we would have a case. But he didn't say that. Right? Regardless of the evidence, it's naive to think that the courts would stand up and confirm fraud and overturn the election. That decision would make every other protest look like a birthday party. I'm glad that you have such a high bar, at least for insurrection. Well, I don't think that it's a high bar. I think that this is a legal thing that we're talking about, and that you actually have to have like real evidence. Do you realize the grounds, the shaky ground that you're walking on? If anything that you say somehow contributes to a person doing something illegal, that you're responsible for it, that's insurrection. Okay, like, think about all of the times that Democrats said things like, I want you to get in their faces and I want you to shove them around. And what about the times that Democrats went and took over the Senate offices? Okay, rioted in the streets. And this was on all of these instances. You could find cases of Democrats saying and making inflammatory statements, okay, that were frankly worse than anything that Donald Trump said on January 6th, right? Did they commit treason or try to create insurrection? No, okay? It is a high bar. Because people have freedom of speech. So your argument is because somebody else did something bad, we should all... No, my argument is that it happens all the time and it's not illegal. And here are all of the instances where something similar happened and nobody did anything because it's not illegal. Now, the argument is that we should all be held to the same standard. Sure, that's a better way of saying it. There are not limits on speech. Okay, the one limit that you're talking about here, Ace, is that if you yell fire in a crowded room, that was the one that they said. Like, if you go and you tell somebody to go and kill, then that's not freedom of speech, okay? But he didn't say that. He didn't say anything of the sort. In fact, like, really, although the media tried to really distort what he said in that speech too, it was all really quite mild. It was basically like, well, we think that there was voter fraud and we should protest this and support the Republicans, the brave Republicans in the House and Senate that are going to challenge the result. That was all he said. His rant is like, it's not. There's nothing illegal about it. Well, there are limits on free speech, but I mean, look, if the Democrats are going to go forward with this, then I guess they're going to talk it out. But I don't think that they're going to win. I think it's going to be like it was before, where you come in and it's going to be like, well, there wasn't actually a crime, right? And this is the bigger issue that I have with all of this, is that there is this notion out there that impeachment can just be whatever we want it to be. And that was not what was intended for it. And if that's the way that they're going to go down, then it's going to turn into every president gets impeached, which is wrong and a very bad thing for the country. There should be an actual real crime committed, and it should be an actual legal trial establishing whether the claimed crime actually took place or not. And if you were to take this to court with anybody else and it was just going to go to your, a regular civil court or whatever the thing is, they wouldn't be able to prove anything. I have seen evidence of voter fraud, but I cannot confirm whether it is genuine evidence or not. But I have definitely seen a significant wealth of evidence out there claiming, based off of statistics and specific instances that they have found and other discrepancies, that voter fraud occurred. What do you mean by he went to the line? I'm not talking about those handwritten complaints. Well, that's a different thing, Ace, really. I mean, that's not, I'm not sure that would constitute voter fraud so much as it is that certain procedures were not followed that are supposed to be. And that is unquestionable. There were vote counting done in both Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, where there were the vote watchers were not allowed to do their job. And that is unquestionable. We have video evidence. It happened everywhere. And people can claim that there wasn't anything illegal done about it. But the fact of the matter is that they weren't allowed to do their job. Okay, I'm asking where you saw evidence. So I saw it when I read the court filings. So if you go in on the Donald Trump sources of information on this, okay, you got to understand, you're talking to somebody that basically reads news all day while I'm waiting for my stuff to compile. And I read Reddit, I read the Donald Trump forums, I read literally everywhere that there is out there, okay, from all different sources of information. So if you go on the Donald Trump sources of information, every time that one of these court cases was submitted, like, people posted the court documents and you could read them. Okay, so someone not being able to watch the vote means it was, well, that's why I specifically said that that's not voter fraud, right? Now you're just misrepresenting my comments. I said that there are procedures that were not followed that should be, and that doesn't make it voter fraud. So what did you say you saw? There are, I believe, 65 different court filings where people made claims of voter fraud that were submitted to courts and that have evidence attached in the court briefs that you can go and read. Bitcoin continuing to go down here. Oh, by the way, I had that one was a loss, right? Yeah, but that one was kind of random. It did eventually move up. That's correct, Gary. Posting the evidence doesn't prove it was a crime until it's ruled by the courts. Claims are just that, claims. So 60 people had one incident apiece. Well, so I think that you would have to go into the various court cases. Okay. So I've read like 3 or 4 of these. I haven't read all 60, of course. But every single one, there was some evidence that was submitted. You have to have that to even submit to court, right? So I would need more than 60 individual votes being off. No. Well, and much like in the case with Georgia, the case that Donald Trump and the secretary were mediating on, they had made a claim of some like 50,000 votes, right? And the evidence that they presented were things like a list of names of people that had voted that were dead. That's not true. Ace, so you're saying, no, I don't. I am not an expert in this area. I am saying the experts who had access to all the info looked at this all disagree with you. That's false. The experts who had access to all of this info, or rather the people involved in the court cases, determined that the people filing the court filings did not have standing to make the claims that they were doing. And that is why it was not looked at. Because I'm having fun winning an argument here. And it matters because this is going to be what you're going to be going over for the next 2 weeks, because that's what Democrats have chosen to do. Find me an expert who looked at all the evidence who agrees with you. So there are a number of people that have testified on this point. And the best example of this that I would point you to was that in Georgia, I don't know if it was the House or the Senate, but in Georgia, they actually had hearings on this, and they had experts testify at those hearings and presented evidence of voter fraud. I am still of the opinion, though, that it would have to be tried in a court, and that never happened. And it should be easy to find a name? Well, sure. Do you want to go and find them? Let's go and search about this. We'll go into DuckDuckGo. I find it really funny when people seem to think that I just pulled this shit out of thin air or something. Voter fraud hearing. Oh, look. Tech expert shocks Georgia election hearing. The man who invented and patented the technology that lets you scan items at the grocery store, create airport boarding pass, and generate authentication codes just blew the doors off the Georgia State Senate subcommittee hearing on elections. Tech expert Joe Van Houten Pulitzer claimed that to the extent there were election issues in Georgia, they could be explained by simply looking at the paper ballots. And he claimed to prove in real time that the system was susceptible to manipulation via Wi-Fi because his team had broken in and were in it at the time of the hearing. Okay, there's one. And by the way, these hearings went on for days, and there was multiple witnesses and people that testified. So... Now, does that prove that there was voter fraud that was there? That's some evidence that you're going to have to look at and prove or disprove yourself. And that's where I say, you know what, that's really for a court to decide, and I'm not sophisticated enough nor have the time enough to look at all of those pieces of evidence and do a thorough investigation on it. That's what the court is for. But then the court said, no, you don't have standing, and so they never did it. I sort of ignore the monkey bags of political shit. Well, the issue is that the Democrats seem to be intent on prosecuting the impeachment. It just seems that they really want to impeach Donald Trump. That they feel that, like, to really truly delegitimize Donald Trump as a president, that he has to be impeached. So they're going to continue to push impeachment even after he's out of office, apparently, because then he can't run again or something like that. So that means in the meantime that, for instance, this is stimulus bill that they want to do, that apparently, as we learned on Friday, is like the only thing keeping this market moving. Because when a Democrat said that he wasn't going to vote for it, the market tanked. Apparently, they're going to have to put that off so that they can talk about impeachment. And that affects the incoming president's entire agenda, and that makes a real impact on the market. And according to our Cashin, today, the reason that they are down is precisely because of that disappointment by the market. Yeah, please don't make personal arguments. Well, I wasn't doing my best shot. I just was providing you one person that testified that was an expert on this. You can go and watch the entire Georgia hearing if you want, but that's like 10 hours. It's probably more than 10 hours worth of video you can go and watch online, right? If you really want to get into it. But that's the whole point, is that there's people that have prevented evidence. You're not even looking at it. So how can you say that it's legitimate evidence or not? You can't, because you don't know, you haven't looked yourself. I gotta go, guys. Stay profitable.